Hey there, it's Serena, and let me ask you something. Have you ever been pushed to your limit by the people who should love you the most? My family disowned me just for buying a $900 house. Sounds crazy, right? But it didn't stop there. Kalista, my own sister, tried to exploit my struggles for money. Can you imagine the betrayal? But what happens next? Well, that's where things get even darker. So, here's my question for you. How far would you go to protect yourself from the people who've hurt you the most? Have you ever had to make the tough choice to walk away from your own family? Drop a comment below. I really want to hear your thoughts. And by the way, where are you watching from? Let me know. I'm curious. I stood in the cold twilight, the keys to my new home in my trembling hand. The house was small, small enough to fit within my savings, small enough to be a reflection of my choices. And yet, it was mine. My first step towards independence, or so I thought. The sound of my parents' voices floated from the kitchen, sharp and cutting. I wasn't supposed to hear their conversation, but the walls were thin, and their words cut through them like knives. They were angry, I could tell, furious. I heard my mother's voice first, a tremble in it that I hadn't noticed before. "How could she do this to us?" she asked. I recognized the tone, the one that showed deep disappointment, the one I hadn't heard since I was a teenager. "It's not just about the house," my father's voice came, low and cold. "It's about everything. She's not thinking. She's chosen a life of poverty over family." Poverty. The word struck me like a slap in the face. I had worked so hard to save every penny, to build something for myself, something outside of their expectations. But to them, it was a betrayal. A choice they couldn't understand. Kalista's voice joined the conversation then, her words like daggers aimed directly at me. "I knew she'd fail," Kalista sneered, always so eager to disappoint. She had every opportunity, but instead, she picks that dump of a house. She's made her choice. I leaned against the doorframe, my chest tightening. I should have left. I should have walked away. But I couldn't move, not when everything was crumbling around me. I had thought I was making a decision that would free me, but here I was, hearing the truth I'd been avoiding for so long. They didn't care about me, not really. Not the way I thought they did. I wasn't a part of their world anymore. I was nothing more than a disappointment to them. I turned away from the door and walked to the window, staring out at the empty street. The house was mine, yes, but it felt like I had just chosen isolation instead of a family. The thought was suffocating, a weight I couldn't shake. As I stood there, the realization hit me with full force. This wasn't a new betrayal. My family had been pulling away from me for years. From the time I'd started making my own choices, they'd been drifting further and further away. This was the culmination of years of subtle rejection. A rejection I hadn't been able to see until now. 16 years ago, I had made a decision, one that made them furious. I had chosen to leave for college in another state, breaking their expectations of who I should be. And ever since, I'd been the black sheep. They'd kept their distance, expecting me to return to the fold, but I didn't. And now, they were cutting me off completely. I had been blind to the signs. The hurt swelled within me, a wave crashing against the walls I had built. I thought I was strong, independent. But now, standing alone in this empty house, I wasn't so sure. Had I made the right decision? I looked back at the house, the small, cheap house that I had thought was the beginning of my freedom. But in reality, it felt more like the beginning of my loneliness. I swallowed the lump in my throat and walked out to the front yard, standing on the cracked pavement, the cool evening air biting at my skin. I could hear the distant hum of traffic, the sound of the world moving on, while I stood here, stuck in the wreckage of my decisions. Maybe they were right. Maybe I had chosen wrong. But at least it was my choice. It was mine. As I stood there, the realization hit me once again. There was no going back. I had no one left to turn to. This was my life now. And no matter how much it hurt, I had to figure out what came next. The thought settled in my mind like a heavy stone. I had made my decision. Perhaps I had chosen poorly, but at least it was mine. I thought I had seen the worst of it, but I was wrong. The real sting came not from the silence after I left the house, but from what came next, the cruel manipulation that followed. It started innocently enough. Kalista, always the smooth talker, reached out to me with what seemed like a genuine offer of support. She wanted to help me raise money. At first, I thought she was being kind, trying to ease my burden. After all, I was struggling. My savings had dried up after the house purchase, and I was barely making ends meet. But when I found out what was really going on, I felt the ground beneath me collapse. Marlene had started a fundraising campaign, plastering my face on posters and social media, spinning my story for sympathy. But as I sat in the corner of the living room, scrolling through the updates, I noticed something chilling. Every donation wasn't helping me, it was helping her. Kalista's name was splashed across every post, as if she were the savior, the one who was going to help me rise from the ashes. But it wasn't me who was getting the support. It was her cause, her idea. She was using my pain to fuel her own benefit. I felt sick to my stomach. The realization was crushing. Kalista wasn't just exploiting my situation for her personal gain. She was using my vulnerability, my isolation, as a stepping stone for her own success. I couldn't believe it. She had crafted this entire narrative, made me the victim, just so she could collect donations under the guise of helping me. She never cared. She never really did. This was all a game to her. I thought of all the times I had helped her, stood by her when things went wrong, tried to support her decisions. And now she was taking my misery and turning it into her personal profit. It was a betrayal so deep, I could feel the weight of it in my chest. I had trusted her. I had believed in the bond we shared, and now I was just another pawn in her selfish scheme. As the days went by, the campaign grew. People who didn't know the truth were donating, believing that Kalista was helping me. But I knew better. I knew that this wasn't about me. It was about her desperate need for attention and validation. It was all so transparent, and yet, there I was, powerless to stop it. I felt small, insignificant, a mere tool for her to use and discard at her whim. The emotional toll this took on me was immense. I felt suffocated by the weight of the lies, by the false narrative that was being spun around me. And just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. While I had been struggling to make ends meet, Kalista had been siphoning money from my family's joint account. She had been secretly funneling funds into her own personal ventures. It wasn't just a betrayal of my trust. It was a betrayal of everything we had built together as a family. She had lied, manipulated, and stolen from the very people who had supported her. And I had been blind to it all. The anger I felt was all-consuming. I had never felt so foolish, so deeply deceived. She had taken advantage of my hardship, used me as her excuse to gain sympathy, and all the while, she was betraying me in the most calculated way. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt, deeply hurt. I thought I could count on Kalista. She had always been my sister, my confidant. But now she was just another person who had lied to me, used me. She was no different from the rest of them, the family that had already abandoned me. And yet, the sting of this betrayal was sharper than anything I had experienced before. I walked around in a haze for days, the weight of the realization pressing down on me. But in the back of my mind, something was shifting. I had spent so long feeling sorry for myself, hiding from the truth, but now I couldn't run anymore. I had to face it. I had to face her. I wasn't going to let her use me any longer. I knew I had to stop her. I had to make sure the truth came out, no matter the cost. I won't let them use me any longer, I whispered to myself, my voice shaking but firm. I'll make sure the truth comes out. The tension in the air was thick as I stepped into the grand hall, my heels clicking on the polished floor like a ticking clock counting down to my confrontation. Family members mingled, laughing and talking, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. I didn't know whether I was walking into a battlefield or an execution chamber, but I couldn't turn back now. Kalista stood by the bar, as poised as ever, the fake smile plastered on her face. It made my blood boil. How dare she stand there, pretending to be the victim, after everything she'd done, after everything I had done for her? I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me as I approached, but it didn't matter. I was done hiding. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, but my resolve firm. I had to confront her. I had to tear down the walls of lies she'd built, not just with me, but with everyone else who had blindly believed her story. "Kalista," I said, my voice steady but sharp. She turned, her eyes widening for a split second before the false politeness returned. "Serena, darling, it's so good to see you," she said with a smirk that made my skin crawl. "You're a liar," I shot back, my voice cutting through the noise of the party. Her expression faltered for a moment, just a fraction of a second, before she masked it with that all-too-perfect smile. "I don't know what you're talking about, Serena," she said, the words sweet but empty. "I'm just trying to help you. We're family, after all." I couldn't hold it in anymore. The fury that had been simmering inside me for so long spilled out, uncontrolled. "Help me?" I laughed bitterly. "You're using me to get what you want. The fundraiser, the sympathy, you've been playing me like a puppet, but I'm done with it." The people around us had stopped talking, their whispers echoing in the background, but it was as if we were in a bubble, just the two of us. Kalista's eyes narrowed and she took a step closer. "Serena, you're out of line. I've always supported you. You're just too proud to accept my help." "No," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "You've been using me. And now I know the truth. I know everything." For a moment, there was a flicker of panic in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by the same practiced smile. "I don't know what you think you know, but I know you've been taking money from the family account," I interrupted, my words slicing through the air. "I know you've been lying to everyone, and I'm not going to stand here and let you keep manipulating me, or anyone else." She blinked, caught off guard, but quickly regained her composure. "You don't understand, Serena. You never have. I was just trying to help. You're making a scene." I wasn't done. "No, you're not sorry. You're just trying to save face. This whole 'I'm here for you' act? It's over. I'm done with it. And I'm done with you." There was a silence between us, thick and heavy. The weight of my words hung in the air, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of her. "I'm not the victim here, Kalista," I said, every word laced with the venom I'd been holding back for so long. "I see you now, and you don't get to control me any longer." Her lips tightened, and for a moment I thought she might snap. But instead, she did the one thing I hadn't expected. She lowered her gaze, her voice softer, almost apologetic. "I'm sorry, Serena. I didn't mean for things to go this far." But I didn't believe it. Not for a second. It was all too convenient. Her apology was just another attempt to keep me in her grip. She wasn't sorry. She was just trying to make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. I stepped back, shaking my head. "Don't pretend anymore. I'm done being your pawn, Kalista. If you think this is over, you're wrong. This is just the beginning." The realization hit me harder than I expected, but it was freeing. I wasn't the same person I was when I walked into this room. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to take control of my life. As I turned to leave, I felt the eyes of the room on me, but it didn't matter. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was done letting them use me. I was going to make sure they knew who I really was. But I won't back down. This time I will fight for myself. I whispered to myself as I walked out of the room, the echoes of Kalista's hollow apology fading behind me. The sound of the phone ringing echoed in my ears, a constant reminder of the storm that was about to unfold. Marlene had been silent for days, but today, I knew something was coming. I'd been avoiding the inevitable, but as I scrolled through the news on my phone, I saw it. Marlene's face plastered across the screen. She had gone live, revealing everything. Her voice crackled through the speakers, her words sharp and cold. "The truth must be known," she said, her expression set in determination, but there was something hollow in her eyes. The lies, the betrayal. It's time for Serena's family to face the truth. I felt my heart sink as the details of my family's darkest secrets spilled into the world. She had told them all, about the debts we'd hidden, about the affairs that had nearly torn us apart, about the moments we tried so desperately to cover up. My father's shame, my mother's regrets, and my own desperation laid bare for anyone who cared to listen. The video kept rolling, and I could see the reactions in the comments section. Some were shocked, others were supportive, but the damage was done. Our family's private pain had become public entertainment. I couldn't breathe. The room seemed to spin around me. I had always known there were skeletons in the closet, but this was something else entirely. My heart raced as I turned off the phone, but the images lingered, like a sickening loop in my mind. I had to face her. I had to confront the woman who had made my worst fears come true, who had torn open wounds that I'd spent years trying to heal. With a shaky breath, I stood up, my feet moving on their own as I made my way to the living room. Kalista was there too, her eyes wide with surprise as she watched the broadcast on her own phone. "So, it's true?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Kalista didn't answer immediately. She just stared at me, her face unreadable. Finally, she nodded, her expression softening for the first time in days. I had no idea she'd go that far. "But you knew," I shot back, the anger rising in my chest. "You knew what she was capable of." Kalista's lips pressed into a thin line. "It's not that simple, Serena." I clenched my fists, fighting to keep my composure. "You let her do this. You let her destroy us, and for what? To get back at me?" "I didn't want this," she murmured, looking down at her lap. "But she's family, Serena. She's always been family." "Family?" I repeated bitterly. "You call that family?" Kalista opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand to stop her. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. I turned away, my head spinning. The truth had been revealed, and now it was out of my hands. But the weight of it all was crushing. How could I face them now? How could I ever trust anyone again? As I made my way to the door, I felt a chill settle over me. This was it. The line had been drawn. The past had been exposed, and there was no going back. "I can't stay silent anymore," I whispered to myself, the words as much a promise as a declaration. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. I'd spent too long letting them control the narrative. This time, the truth would be mine to tell, but I wouldn't be silenced. I'd make sure the truth came out, no matter the cost. The weeks after Marlene's broadcast had been unbearable. Every moment seemed like a living nightmare, and yet nothing could have prepared me for the cold, calculated truth I would uncover next. It wasn't until I overheard Kalista talking to a reporter one evening that everything clicked. Her words, full of false sympathy and concern, echoed in my mind, each one dripping with manipulation. She was using me, no, exploiting me, all for the sake of her career. She spoke about the struggles I had been through, as though they were nothing more than a stepping stone for her own rise to fame. It wasn't enough that I had been betrayed by my family. Now Kalista was using my pain to further her own agenda. I couldn't just let this slide. I knew I had to do something, but the weight of it all felt crushing. The anger that had been simmering in me for so long began to boil over. I couldn't stand the thought of being treated like a pawn, manipulated by the very people I once called family. I had to confront Kalista. The next day, I started digging. I went through my old emails, personal files, anything that could give me the answers I needed. That's when I found it. Proof of what Kalista had been doing. She had been siphoning money from my family's account to fund her own projects that were meant to boost her public image, while taking full advantage of the charity work I had been doing. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a calculated move to use my name and my struggles to build her own empire. The discovery sent a shockwave through me. I had always known Kalista was ambitious, but I never imagined she'd sink so low. I felt sick to my stomach. How could she do this to me? How could she lie, manipulate, and use me like this for her personal gain? I couldn't sit idly by anymore. I wasn't going to let her continue using me as a stepping stone. The time had come to make my move. I knew that I needed to confront her, and I wasn't going to back down. I had spent too many years being pushed around, made to feel like I was invisible in my own family, but not anymore. I found Kalista in the living room, her phone in hand, seemingly unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. She didn't even notice my presence until I slammed the file of evidence down on the coffee table in front of her. "Explain this," I demanded, my voice low and steady. Her eyes widened for a moment before narrowing into a defensive glare. "What's this about, Serena?" "You've been stealing from the family's account," I said, my voice rising with anger. "Using my name, my pain, to build your career. You don't even have the decency to do it on your own. You're using me, Kalista." She took a step back, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She wasn't as confident as she appeared. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said quickly, trying to regain control of the situation. "No," I snapped, shaking my head. "I know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been playing me like a fool for years, and I'm done with it. You've used my struggles to get ahead, and I won't let you get away with it." She paused, her expression softening just slightly, as though she were trying to assess whether she could still manipulate me. "Serena, I never meant for things to get so out of hand. I didn't want you to find out like this." I laughed bitterly. "Don't lie to me. You knew exactly what you were doing, and now you'll face the consequences." I stood up, walking toward the door. "I won't let anyone use me again. Kalista will regret underestimating me." Her eyes followed me, but I didn't wait for her response. The damage had been done. Now, it was time for me to take control of my own life and stop letting them tear me apart. Kalista's apology was hollow, as empty as the promises she had made over the years. She sat across from me, her posture stiff, her eyes searching mine as if trying to gauge my reaction. I knew exactly what she was doing. Her words were smooth, carefully crafted to sound sincere, but they were nothing more than a desperate attempt to regain control. "I know I've hurt you, Serena," she said, her voice laced with faux sorrow. "I'm sorry. I was just trying to help. I was just trying to make things right." I could see the lie in her eyes. I had spent my entire life allowing her to play the victim, to twist every situation to her advantage. Not anymore. The anger I had been holding in for years rose to the surface. The nerve of her, the audacity. "No, Kalista," I said, my voice steady, despite the storm brewing inside me. "You've never been sorry, not once. You've always used me, and now you're trying to manipulate me again." Her eyes flickered, a shadow of panic crossing her face. "That's not true. I'm done," I interrupted, my words sharp and final. "I've spent too long trying to make excuses for you. You've lied, you've betrayed me, and you've used my pain for your own gain. I can't keep doing this." Her expression faltered, and I could tell she wasn't used to being called out like this. She tried to steady herself, but I could see the cracks in her armor. "Serena, please," she begged. "We're family. We can fix this. We've always been able to fix things before." I shook my head, my heart heavy but resolute. "Not this time, not anymore." The truth was that I had been holding on for far too long, clinging to a family that didn't deserve my loyalty. Kalista had shown me her true colors, and I wasn't going to sit idly by while she continued to destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. "Family?" I scoffed. "What's family, Kalista? It's not a game for you to win, a prize to claim when it suits you. I've spent my whole life being your stepping stone, but I won't do it anymore. I'm done." Her face twisted in frustration, but there was something else there too. Fear. For the first time, I saw that she was losing control, and it felt like a weight lifting off my chest. "I can't believe you'd do this," she said, her voice shaking. "You're throwing away everything." "I'm not throwing anything away," I replied. "I'm finally choosing myself, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else take that away from me anymore." The words felt like a release. The years of resentment, the years of sacrifice, it all culminated in this moment. For the first time in my life, I was standing up for myself. I wasn't going to let Kalista or anyone else use me as a pawn in their games. I walked out of the room, leaving Kalista behind. The door closed with a soft click, and I felt a strange sense of peace settle over me. It was the kind of peace that only comes when you finally stop allowing the past to control you. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let my family dictate my happiness any longer. I would build a life for myself, one that was free of manipulation, lies, and betrayal. It was time to take back control. I've had enough, I muttered under my breath as I stood on the threshold of a new chapter in my life. I'm done being your puppet. The revelation of the family's lies had been a bombshell, and now the dust was settling. The truth was out there, and there was no taking it back. The damage had been done. I stood in the living room, watching the tension unfold before me. Marlene was seated on the couch, her hands fidgeting in her lap. My parents stood across the room, their faces flushed with embarrassment, unable to meet my gaze. The air was thick with silence, each of us knowing that the charade was over. You really thought you could keep this all hidden? I finally spoke, my voice steady, but I could feel the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. Marlene shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the floor. I didn't want it to come to this, Serena, she said, her voice faltering. I just wanted to fix everything. You've been lying to me my entire life, and now you want to pretend like you care? I spat, my heart pounding. You didn't want to fix anything, you just wanted control. Marlene opened her mouth to respond, but I held up my hand to stop her. No, I'm done with your excuses. I'm done with all of you. The weight of her words hung heavy in the room, and I saw a flicker of panic cross her face. She had been the golden child, always playing the role of the perfect daughter, the perfect sister. But now, her perfect world was crumbling around her. Serena, please, my mother's voice trembled. We didn't want you to find out like this. We didn't mean to hurt you. Didn't mean to hurt me? I echoed, the bitterness dripping from my words. You think I don't see it? You've been lying to me, hiding the truth, using me to cover up your messes. And now you want to apologize? It was too much to process, too much to bear. The people I had trusted my whole life, the people I had called family, were nothing more than strangers who had used me for their own gain, the weight of it all pressed down on me, suffocating me. Do you realize what this has cost me? I asked, my voice rising. You've ruined everything. You've ruined me. The room was silent except for the soft rustling of Marlene's hands, her eyes now filled with tears. It wasn't remorse, it was fear. She was afraid of losing the one thing that had always been her safety net, her control over the family, but she had already lost it. I had taken that power back the moment I chose to stand up for myself. I'm done, I whispered, the finality of my words settling over me like a heavy cloak. I can't keep pretending that we're a family. I'm leaving. I'm done with all of you. There was no protest, no more begging. They knew it was over. The truth had broken something irreparable, and all that was left now was the painful aftermath. I turned and walked away, leaving them behind. There was nothing left to say, nothing that could undo the damage that had been done. But for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. I didn't look back. I walked into the room with a sense of finality I hadn't felt in years. This was it, the moment I would stop being a pawn in the hands of the people I once called my family. I was done. Done with the manipulation, the lies, and the endless attempts to control me. Kalista, with all her charm and deceit, wasn't going to break me anymore. She sat across from me, the familiar look of concern plastered across her face. Serena, please, she began, her voice dripping with faux sincerity. I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I just stared at her, my mind a mix of anger and disbelief. I don't want your apology, Kalista, I said, my voice steady but cold. I don't want your fake remorse. I've had enough of this. Her eyes flickered, and for a split second, I could see the desperation in her. But it didn't matter. I had already made my decision. I've been your tool for far too long, I continued, the words flowing out with a force I hadn't known I had. You've used me, manipulated me, and now you expect me to fall for your act? No more. I'm done being your puppet. Kalista opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. You've caused enough damage, and I won't let you do it anymore. The room felt heavy as I spoke. Every word was a weight, a release of all the anger, sadness, and frustration I had bottled up for years. But it felt good. It felt right. I don't need you or anyone else to tell me how to live my life. I've been letting you all dictate my future for far too long, but not anymore. My voice was stronger now, fueled by a new sense of determination. I'm taking control. Kalista's face twisted with frustration. You don't understand, Serena. This is what's best for you. No, I snapped, the finality in my tone making it clear that this conversation was over. What's best for me is to be free of you, and I'm doing it, starting now. I stood up, walking toward the door. For the first time in years, I didn't look back. I didn't hesitate. As I reached for the handle, I turned to face her one last time. I'm done. I'm going to live my life on my terms, and you're not going to stop me. With that, I left. The weight of everything, the years of lies, manipulation, and heartache, seemed to lift as I walked out the door. I wasn't free yet, but I was on my way, and that was all that mattered now. The emotional turmoil of the past years faded into the background as I stepped out into the world I was about to take back. The fear, the uncertainty, it was all still there, but it no longer controlled me. For the first time, I felt like I had a future that was all mine. I didn't know exactly what that future would look like, but I knew it would be mine, and no one could take that from me. I stood at the edge of my future, staring down at the wreckage of what I had once considered my family. Kalista's apologies, my family's pleas, all the empty words, they no longer held any weight. What had once been the lifeblood of my world now felt like nothing more than a distant echo, fading away with each passing moment. Serena, Kalista's voice came, shaky, uncertain. Please, I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you. We can fix this. Her eyes pleaded with me, but I didn't flinch. I didn't need to. I had heard it all before, and I was done. Done with the lies, done with the manipulation. The facade she put up was nothing more than a veil to hide her true intentions, the same intentions that had nearly destroyed me. I don't need your apology anymore, Kalista, I said, my voice steady. It's too late. You don't get to play the victim anymore. She looked taken aback. Good. She wasn't expecting that. I wasn't the scared little sister anymore, the one who allowed her to pull the strings. I was standing here, ready to make my life my own. No more excuses. I've already decided, I continued, the weight of my decision settling heavily in my chest. I'm done with you. I'm done with all of you. Kalista's face twisted, her anger rising, but I wasn't backing down. I wasn't going to allow her to have any power over me anymore. She might have been my sister once, but not anymore. Not after everything she'd done. Not after how she used me, how she turned every mistake, every vulnerable moment, into a tool to control me. As the silence stretched between us, I felt the bitter sting of betrayal, but also something else, something stronger. It was the feeling of reclaiming my life, my choices. I was no longer a victim of their games. I had stood up, faced the fear, and now I was ready to walk away. I'm cutting you out, I said. The words were final, unwavering, and this time, I'm doing it for me. Kalista's face crumbled as if she couldn't believe it. You don't mean that. I shook my head, taking a deep breath, allowing the finality of my decision to wash over me. I do, I said, walking past her. I'm not your pawn anymore, and I'm not going to let you make me feel small. Not ever again. As I left the room, the weight of my past decisions fell away. It wasn't easy, but nothing worth having ever is. I had made my peace. The pain of the past wasn't gone, but I knew that I was stronger than I had ever been before. I wasn't going to be swayed by the people who had once been my world. They no longer defined me. I did. Walking out of the house, I felt a surge of independence rush through me. This was my life, my choices, my future, and no one was going to take that from me. There would still be hurdles ahead, moments of doubt, but I would face them head on, with the strength I had fought so hard to find. And if there was one thing I knew for sure, it was that I wasn't going to stop now. This was only the beginning. I can't go back, I whispered to myself, the final words in a long battle. As I moved forward, I felt the weight of my past start to lighten. It wasn't about forgetting, it was about moving on. I had taken my life back, and now I was finally free. As I stand here today, I look back on everything that led me to this point. The hurt, the betrayal, and the countless struggles. But one thing I've learned through it all is that true strength lies in our ability to walk away from toxic relationships, to choose ourselves, and to rise from the ashes of what once defined us. Life isn't always about the battles we fight, but about how we choose to stand up after every fall. If you're facing struggles, feeling trapped in a situation that keeps draining you, know this: you have the power to change. The hardest part is making that decision, but once you do, the strength to rebuild will follow. It's okay to let go of what no longer serves you. Whether it's family, friends, or anything else, remember, your peace, your independence, is worth fighting for. So, my question to you is, have you ever made the difficult decision to cut ties with something or someone? What did it teach you about yourself? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever found strength in your own journey, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's continue this conversation. Let's continue to share and grow together. And hey, if you didn't like this video, let me know why. I always appreciate feedback. Thanks for watching, and remember, your story isn't over yet. Keep fighting, keep growing, and keep choosing yourself. See you in the next one.